My name is Neil Kelleher. I'm the author or editor of sensationalyoga-poses.com. In this video I'll be going over some preparation poses for Lotus pose or yoga Lotus pose. Actually I'll be showing you how to work towards half Lotus and also how to work towards the binding half Lotus, which might look something like this, where you grab the foot from behind with the same side arm. So one of the ways that I wanted to approach this pose is to actually look at the pose, what's happening in the pose, so that you can see the relevance of the different exercises. So whether you're binding in half Lotus or not binding, and just as a demonstration, another pose that has one-legged lotuses are the Bharadvajasana. So again, you bind and place the hand on the knee or here. So you could be working towards this pose or bound half Lotus forward bend. But in any case, in the Lotus leg, one of the key points to notice is that the knee is totally closed. So it's bent completely or as much as possible. Also, so one of the things that you can work on is if you cannot kneel, so you could work at gradually stretching both the knees or increasing the range of movement of the knees and the ankles by practicing leaning forward, taking some weight off, maybe putting your hands on the floor, and then slowly sitting back and upright, and then repeating that action slowly and smoothly. Now another thing to notice about Lotus pose is that with the knee bent, the shin is towards the inside of the thigh. What do I mean? If you look at another pose where the knee is fully bent, this leg position is called hero. In English it's hero pose. It's also called Virasana, the one-sided Virasana. But in this pose, the knee is fully closed, and I'm sitting my hip down. The shin's folded to the outside of the thigh. In Lotus, the shin is folded to the inside. And one way you could think about this is, with the knee bent, the shin actually has some rotational ability. In Lotus, in the previous pose, in hero pose, so that the shin can fold to the outside of the pose, to the outside of the thigh. Sorry, the shin rolls inwards. That brings the leg to the outside of the thigh. For Lotus, the shin rolls externally or outwards to bring the foot to the inside of the thigh. And that brings to mind another pose that could be used as a preparation for Lotus, and that is Janu Sirsasana C, or in particular the Janu Sirsasana C foot position. This foot position is actually quite similar to Lotus. The only difference is, instead of the foot being on top of the thigh, the inside of the foot is against the thigh and the toes are on the floor. But here again, the shin is rotated externally, bringing the shin to the inside of the thigh. And if that gets a bit confusing, talking about internal and external rotation of the shin versus bringing the shin to the inside or the outside of the thigh, just focus on one aspect or one name convention. So you could say, just focus on bringing the shin to the inside of the thigh or moving to the outside of the thigh. So in this case, in Janu Sirsasana, the shin position, the shin is very similar to Lotus in that it is brought to the inside of the thigh and the foot points down. And so one way to prepare for Lotus is to practice Janu Sirsasana C, sitting upright, and if you like, bending forward. If you can't do this pose, then work towards it. Try kneeling first with the toes tucked under. You can sit upright. If that's too painful, what I suggest, press the toes down, relax, press the toes down, and then relax. And do that slowly and smoothly. Another option is, as in the previous kneeling exercise, to lean forward, take some weight off the toes, and then lean back. But work towards being able to do this comfortably. And then from there, to work towards Janu Sirsasana C, what you can do is turn one leg out, like so, place the foot against the inner thigh. This hopefully should be relatively easy. If not, work towards it. Notice here my foot is towards the inside of the thigh, close to the inside of the opposite thigh. From there, Right now I'm on the toes of this foot. I can flick the toes back so I'm gradually kneeling on the top of the foot, and from here moving slightly closer to Janu Sirsasana C, and then from there straighten the bottom leg. So now my pelvis is closer to the floor, and here again I can work towards Janu Sirsasana C. Now the next thing to notice about Lotus pose is the fact that this is external rotation, this is internal rotation of the thigh. So relative to the pelvis, the thigh rolls outwards. You can think of the inner thigh moving out, and then relative to the pelvis, the thigh rolls inwards, the inner thigh moves down, and the top of the thigh moves in. That's internal rotation. In Lotus, if you start with the legs straight ahead, and then say this is the leg that I'm targeting to move into Lotus, I roll it out, so that's external rotation. I also move it outwards slightly, and then from there the knee is bent, and the foot is, I can bring the foot into the Lotus position. So the important aspect here is being able to externally rotate the thigh. Now one exercise, if you are tight in that dimension, I call this screaming pigeon basically because it's quite painful, but it is also very effective. And some people, in a lot of versions of pigeon, you may be taught to lift the hip, and I do use this version on occasion, whether upright or bent forward. However, for working towards Lotus, you may find it more effective to have the hip on the floor, move the foot forward. So if you're using a mat, your shin, if you're using a mat, and this is the front edge of the mat, place your shin so that it is parallel to the front edge of your mat. The front edge of your shin parallel to the front of your mat, or your heel in line with the knee. Hip on the floor. First action you can do is reach this leg back. Place your hands on the floor, slowly lower your chest to your thigh, and that can be a stretch just there. And then to increase the stretch, you can use the outside arm, so this arm. So this is my left leg, I'm using my left arm. Use your outside arm to push your rib cage towards the foot. So initially you might try and get your shoulder, the opposite side shoulder towards the foot. Then from there you can increase the push, try and get your sternum towards the foot. While you're doing that, I strongly recommend either pressing the knee down or the foot down, or some combination of both. Use whichever action makes your knee feel safe and strong. And if your knee hurts, stop what you're doing, change what you're doing. And if you can find a way to do this action without hurting your knee, then you probably need to rest from this and from Lotus until the knee is better again. But anyway, assuming the knee's okay, foot, ankle, and hip, you can work at moving your ribs away from your pelvis so your torso is long. You can move your ears away from your rib cage so your neck is long. Keep the length. Try to push towards your foot at the same time sink down. So here I'm going to focus on pressing my foot into the floor. And slowly I can use both hands to draw my face so it is over my foot. Got a bit of tension, pain in the knee, so I'm going to adjust by moving my pelvis back, even moving my sacrum down a little bit, so I'm rolling my pelvis back, and that feels a little bit better on the knee. Then I'm going to move deeper. So I'm not quite with my shoulder at the foot, but that's okay. It's good enough to prepare for Lotus. One aspect of Lotus which isn't readily apparent just from watching the pose is pressing the foot down. So if I'm moving into Lotus, what I like to do is actively press the foot down against my hands. And we sort of explored that a little bit in pigeon pose. I suggested pushing the foot down into the floor. If your chest is over your knee, you might find it more effective to push the knee down. But in either case, what you may find is if you push the foot down, you'll feel an activation of the side of the hip, so the lateral gluteal muscles. So basically the muscles that fill the space between the top of your hip crest and the top of the greater trochanter of the thigh bone. Those muscles can be used to move the leg outwards. They also can be used to rotate the leg out or in. But in pigeon and also in Lotus, they could actually be, they could actually be supporting the hip joints, helping give the hip joints stability or integrity. Ironically, at the same time, you're lengthening the muscles. So what you may be trying to do is to keep the muscles active while allowing them to lengthen at the same time. Also important is the fact that those muscles can affect the, or actually pushing down on the foot can have an effect on the IT band, which crosses the outside of the knee, and also can affect all the way down, create a line of tension basically down the outside of the leg, and that can be useful in keeping your knee safe, uninjured. It also may make it actually easier to move into your poses because you're giving your brain a signal that you have control over your leg, over your hip, knee, ankle, so it may be more likely to turn the necessary muscles on or off so that you can move into Lotus relatively easily. Take note that this may take time, but if you practice actively pressing your feet down, you may make it easier to move towards Lotus over a period of time. So a couple of simple exercises to practice pressing the feet down, but also to work on hip flexibility, both the outer hips and the inner hips, is bound angle or butterfly pose. And what I'd suggest, start with your feet further forward so that if you bend forward completely, your face would end up in between your feet. And in this action, you can bend forward a little bit, place your hands on the floor, work at pressing your feet down as if you're trying to push yourself back upright, but obviously modulating or adjusting the pressure just enough that you can feel the outside of you can feel a line of, if I press down, I can feel a line of tension here, maybe a little bit along the outer shins, but anyway, if I press the feet down, by pressing the feet down, my knees go down automatically. Another action you can do while pressing the feet down is try to spread the inner edges of the feet. It's a little bit more difficult with the feet forward, but do practice it. You may feel like your shins are rolling outwards slightly, but that action again may be helpful when you're actually doing Lotus. So from there you can then bring the feet further back. And if you cannot bend forward in this position, and this is actually a position I have a lot of difficulty in, put your hands behind you, lift your chest, and then from there you can actively press your feet down while lifting your chest at the same time. If you want to bend forward, you can put the hands on, you can place the hands on the wall behind you. So push your hands against the wall, open the chest, and then from there press the feet down. And rather than keeping the inner soles of the feet together, try to spread them. And rather than using your hands to do that action, try to use the muscles of your ankle and feet to do the actions like so. And then you can work it gradually pressing forward. Keep pressing the feet down. Keep your chest open, neck long. And then if you like, you can also grab the feet. But again, keep the feet active. Use the strength of your arms to pull yourself forward. A couple of actions you could practice in a forward bend. If your forward bending is limited, that's something you can work on so that you can bend forward if you're doing the half band Lotus variation. But more importantly, you could do this exercise while sitting up, is to train the feet to get used to using the feet while you are in Lotus, changing the way you position your foot or activate the foot, maybe to make Lotus easier or a bit more comfortable. Very simple, while sitting upright or while bending forward, focus on the outer edges of the feet, push them forward. It's like you're doing a side kick, so that feeling like you're pushing forward through the base, through the outer edges of the foot, and then do the opposite, pull the outer edges of the feet backwards like so. Outer edges of the feet forward, outer edges of the feet back. You can do the same thing while bending forward, chest open, neck long, press through the outer edges of the feet, relax, and then pull the outer edges of the feet back. And while you do that, notice what happens in the hips. For me, when I press through the outer edges of the feet, I notice that my thighs roll out, and that's because this action rolls the shins externally, and because the knees are straight, that locks the knees, prevents rotation between the shin and the thigh, and that results in the thigh rolling out slightly. And then when I do the opposite, pulling the outer edges of the feet back, that rolls the shins in slightly. And again, because the knees are straight, there's no rotation allowed between the knee and the thigh, and so that causes the thigh to roll inwards. So this action, use this action just to tune in your awareness of how foot action can affect the hips when the knees are straight. So next step, what I'd suggest, even though you've already done it while sitting upright, what you could do to work towards Lotus, move into Janu Sirsasana C again. Actually, I'll do my left leg. You start with your hands behind you. Lift your chest, and what I'd suggest, you can try pressing the heel into the foot for this pose, and also try pressing the foot, the sole of the foot down. And this is along the same idea of pushing your feet down in Baddha Konasana. So push the foot down into the floor. You may find your knee goes down automatically, and then from there moving very slowly, see if you work towards bending forward. If your knee hurts, then remain sitting. See if you can vary the foot action. You might want to try pushing the knee down, or let the knee lift up, push the heel in, or try pushing down with greater pressure. See if you can find a action that keeps your knee safe, keeps it pain-free while bending forward. And again, bend forward slowly so you have time to stop. If your knee hurts, stop, change the way you're doing it. If you can't find a way that doesn't hurt, then stop what you're doing, take a rest. Yeah, that's it, simple. All right, so from there, hopefully it's relatively easy then just to flex the foot, place the top of the foot on top of the thigh. And here again, when you're placing the foot on top of the thigh, actively press the foot down, slowly bring the foot back. Try and get the heel of the foot towards the belly, at least work towards that. If you can't do it straight away, work towards it. So maybe place the foot here, press the foot down, relax. And what you could do is press the foot down, relax, press the foot down, relax. And then try moving the foot further back, press the foot down, relax, press the foot down, relax. And another dimension to be aware of is whether your foot is in with respect to the bottom thigh or more towards the outside edge. I prefer experiment with it. For me, my heel is in line with the inner thigh and my toes are hanging on the outside of the thigh. That's the position I find most, for me right now, is more comfortable. And the action here is like inbound angle, turn the soles of the feet up. So in this position, turn the sole of the foot up. That'll rotate the shin externally, which is what we want in Lotus anyway. And then from there, if you like, you can try binding. And to bind, if you cannot get your hand to here, then binding is a futile endeavor. So work on your shoulder mobility first. First was a separate exercise. You want to be able to reach your hand past the waist like so. And what you could do, cup your hands together like this. Maybe use one hand to pull the other arm back. Resist slightly with both arms, but make this hand slightly stronger. So it's like you're pulling this hand back, this hand forward. See if you can move the hand in position. Another thing you can be aware of is when you're reaching your hand behind you, perhaps before reaching your hand back, you can retract the shoulder blade so it pulls in towards the spine and then try reaching. Or you can place the hand behind the back first, maybe open the chest, lift the chest, and then try retracting the shoulder blade to reach the hand in. Experiment with a few options, but then once you are able to do that, then with your foot in Lotus, so again, press down against the hands, place the leg on the thigh, reach the hand back behind you. And often when I used to teach this, I'd use the hand forward to make the arm feel long, reach it out to the side again, making it feel long, and then back again, reaching backwards, neck long, chest open, and then from there, wrap the arm around the back. And that's something you may find helpful. And you still have to grab the foot, and for that, hook the toes with the finger, or hook the top of the foot with the fingers of the opposite hand, reach the thumb back. So you can use this hand to pull the foot back, reach the thumb back, grab onto the thumb. Once you have the thumb, then you can use this hand to bring the hand and the foot together. And then once they're together, you may find it helpful to bend forward, turn towards the Lotus leg, grab onto the foot. And then once you've grabbed on, pull the hand back, pull the foot forward. So you add a bit of tension. You can either turn to the side or face forward, and if you like, bend forward. And experiment with all of those poses. You can try the warm-ups in different orders, but as you get better at Lotus, you'll need less of the warm-up positions, and you may find that you can work into one-sided Lotus with little or no with much less of a warm-up, perhaps just doing the screaming pigeon variation. Anyway, hopefully that helps. I may do a video later on moving both legs into Lotus, but I'd suggest the prerequisite is being able to get both legs one at a time into Lotus. So do your left leg, bind, do your right leg, bind. Spend some time exploring how it feels one leg at a time. One other exercise you can do while binding, and this is to work towards poses like the Marichyasana series where one knee is bent, but also just to explore Lotus. So, okay, I've bound, that's Lotus. No, now you can take some time to explore. You can turn to the front, you can turn towards the Lotus leg, but also you could try lifting the leg, and this might be very important as a preparation for the Marichyasana series, particularly those where you're binding forward. Try lifting the knee towards the chest, and relax, lift and relax. If you want to get the knee to the floor, you may find you have to lift this hip. You can try that as well, just like so, touch the knee down, then work towards having the knee down and the hip on the floor. Another option you can think about is moving the knee outwards, and this you may find helps this shoulder to stretch. So if you want to stretch the chest, try moving the knee outwards. Another option is to move the knee inwards. You may find you have to adjust the position of the foot to do so. But those are just things that you can play with to make your Lotus a bit more complete, and also to hopefully help you have fun exploring your body. Thank you very much. Namaste.